Donald Trump is desperately trying to convince people that he's not an extremist on abortion after proudly taking credit for overturning Roe v. Wade, which has now led to a horrendous ruling in Arizona outlawing almost all abortions in the state based on a Civil War-era law. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. There are very few things Donald Trump has been consistent on. He's changed his opinions on everything from health care to the minimum wage to the spelling of his own name. That's real. He once misspelled his own name on Twitter. To Trump sounds like how the Beatles would talk about the drums during a recording session. Yeah, first we need a ba-dum, then we need a tss, then throw in a little ta-tum. When Trump named his Twitter knockoff Truth Social, he really missed an opportunity to just call it to Twitter. But lest we forget, in 2016, Trump did say very explicitly that he wanted the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade and that he would appoint justices who would do exactly that.
Do you want the court, including the justices that you will name, to overturn Roe v. Wade, which includes, in fact, states a woman's right to abortion?
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that that will go back to the individual states.
But I'm asking you specifically, would you
If they overturned it, it'll go back to the states.
Do you want to see the court overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, if we put another 2 or perhaps 3 justices on, that's really what's going to be, that will happen. And that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court.
Asking Trump a question is like playing chess against someone who only knows one move. All you have to do is ask him 1 or 2 follow-ups and he'll immediately confess. I can't wait to see what he's like on the stand. Did you pay hush money to a porn star? If I did, it would be legal. Did you pay hush money to a porn star? If that happened, it would have been fine. Did you pay hush money to a porn star? Yes, because I was afraid she'd tell everyone I have a weird penis. Why is it taking you so long to admit it? Because it's illegal, duh. Yeah, true, it's super weird. For real, I see it in the mirror. I'm like, what? Oh, right. That clip is from October 2016. Remember those days when we all thought we were 3 weeks away from never having to look at or think about Donald Trump ever again? I guarantee you, even Trump was on that stage thinking to himself, thank God this is almost over. I can't wait to go back to Mar-a-Lago and enjoy my large marble bathroom that doesn't have any boxes of classified documents in it. Yet. That was actually a very unusual moment of candor from Trump because for years, Republican presidential candidates had played this dumb rhetorical game where they claimed they would have no idea how the justices they nominated would rule on abortion.
Should a voter assume that all judicial appointments you make to the Supreme Court or any other court, federal court, will also be pro-life?
Voters should assume that I have no litmus test on that issue or any other issue.
George W. Bush genuinely wanted us to believe that he would appoint judges without having any idea where they stood on abortion. Although in Bush's case, it was actually kind of believable he would have no idea who he was nominating. I'm here to announce my Supreme Court pick. His name eludes me, so I call him Lego Man. Instead, Trump, yeah, you know, it's not. I wasn't around then, so it's good to, show everybody I got a C- Bush. Instead, Trump went out of his way to promise that he would overturn Roe, and then after it happened, he couldn't help but take credit for it in interviews, even though it's been massively unpopular with voters and has cost Republicans election after election.
Roe v. Wade, I did something that nobody thought was possible, and Roe v. Wade was terminated, was put back to the states. Now, people, pro-lifers, have the right to negotiate for the first time. They had no rights at all.
What do you mean negotiate? Everything with this guy is real estate. We're talking about health care and bodily autonomy for millions of women, and this guy is treating it like a golf course he's building in Manhattan. They said there was no room for an 18-hole course in Midtown, but now we're negotiating to put a par 3 on top of the Empire State Building. And now, the backlash to overturning Roe has been so intense that voters in states as eclectic as Michigan, California, Ohio, and Kansas have all gone to the polls to protect abortion rights in overwhelming numbers. Voters even rejected an anti-abortion ballot measure in Kentucky, which is so conservative their state bird comes in a bucket. So there can be no escaping accountability. Trump told everyone he would overturn Roe. He nominated 3 justices who overturned Roe, and then he bragged about overturning Roe. Normally, it can be very hard to pin something on Trump because he's so good at wriggling his way out of everything. But this is as straightforward as it gets. It's like one of those conspiracy theory boards with one string going from Trump to Roe. And yet Trump is now trying to trick everyone into thinking he's actually a moderate on abortion who opposes a national abortion ban.
Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state.
Oh, people keep asking you what your position is on abortion. You know what that means, my man? You're a communicator. You were president for 4 years. You never shut your mouth, and yet people are still wondering where you stand on what the biggest issues are at times. And I get that it's confusing. I mean, he says he's pro-life, but he definitely seems like a guy who paid for an abortion, or at the very least once told a woman he would go halvesies. But the reality is no one is confused. We all know what Trump's personal opinion is on abortion. Whatever will help him today, which is why what he thinks or what he says doesn't matter. It's what he's done. He overturned Roe. His GOP allies have introduced a national abortion ban in Congress. They're making plans for a so-called Department of Life that would impose a nationwide abortion crackdown. Trump's FDA could and likely will revoke authorization for the abortion pill. Republicans want a Trump DOJ to enforce a 19th century law known as the Comstock Act that could allow them to prosecute anyone who sends abortion pills by mail. But Trump and his allies think they can trick everyone into thinking he's a moderate on abortion by lying and claiming he'll leave it up to the states, which he won't.
This issue does not hurt Donald Trump. He's not against abortion. He's actually okay with abortion. He wants that 15-week limit. Perfectly reasonable.
Wait. He didn't say 15 weeks. That's not quoting him. Yesterday, he had a different take. He didn't say 15 weeks. He said, let the states decide.
Well,
a point I happen to agree with, by the way, wholeheartedly. But I can't pin 15 weeks on him because it's not what he said.
Okay, but that makes him the pro-choice candidate. Leave it up to the states.
This brings us to a segment we're calling Seth Tries Really Hard Not to Lose It. Trump is the pro-choice candidate? Are you out of here? I'm sorry, I believe you are mistaken. Your statements are misleading, and you are failing to provide an accurate, good faith analysis of the facts. You're inverting the truth for political purposes and gaslighting your viewers by grossly misrepresenting the details of the situation. Let me put it another way. You're a piece of Well, I failed. This has been Seth Tries Really Hard Not to Lose It. Also, let me just say, so cool to watch a couple dudes discuss an issue that literally hurts women, ever whether or not it will hurt another dude, Donald Trump, at the ballot box. That guy's a right-wing radio host named Mark Simone. Also, he suggested in that interview that if women have to flee their states and travel tens or hundreds of miles to access life-saving medical care, it's no big deal.
If you had to travel to another state to get an abortion, it's not the worst thing in the world. Hopefully, this is a very rare occurrence in your life. Once in your life, maybe you would do it. Buying a bus ticket to go somewhere to get it is not the worst thing in the world.
Then you take the bus, mother. You take the bus. How about every time someone has to take a bus to get an abortion care out of state, we make Mark Simone wait in line for a Greyhound at the Port Authority. Dude would run out that day and buy a T-shirt that says, "My body, my choice." And by the way, some states that banned abortion, like Louisiana, are surrounded by other states that banned abortion. If you live in Louisiana, Mark Simone wants you to remember, when you get on the bus, take all your books, because it's a long-ass ride. Simone made that idiotic comment in response to a grotesque ruling out of Arizona's conservative Supreme Court on Tuesday that revived a Civil War-era law from before Arizona was even a state, banning virtually all abortions.
Arizona's Supreme Court today ruled that a 160-year-old near-total abortion ban is still enforceable.
The Arizona State Supreme Court just announced that a state ban on nearly all abortions that dates all the way back to 1864 will be the law of the land in that state. And that 1864 law bans anyone from providing abortion services except to save the life of a mother. People found in violation of that law could face a mandatory 2 to 5 years in prison if convicted.
This law dates back to the Civil War, before Arizona was even a state.
What? States can enforce laws written before they were even states? Does that mean any state in the Louisiana Purchase is now subject to the laws of 18th century France? If you steal a loaf of bread in Baton Rouge, you'll be sentenced to 19 years in jail and they'll write a musical about you? Just to give you an idea of how insane this is, this law dates back to the Civil War, before women had the right to vote, before the 13th Amendment outlawed slavery, before Arizona was a state, when Abraham Lincoln was still president. To put that in Lincoln terms, this law is 80 old, and it was Lincoln himself who once said, anything higher than 80 is too many score. This is exactly the situation Trump just said he supports leaving it up to the states. Trump and his allies can't escape this, much as they may try. Today, for example, after the horrific consequences of his action became reality, Trump tried to act like he was actually against the Arizona ruling that only happened because he overturned Roe.
Did Arizona go too far? Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out.
What do you mean it'll get straightened out? You broke it. This is your fault. We had a landmark Supreme Court ruling in place that protected the healthcare choices and bodily autonomy of all Americans, and you undid it. You don't get to clog the toilet at a party and then say, I think we can all agree someone else will fix it. Then there's Trump's MAGA protege and Senate candidate Kari Lake, who ran for governor in Arizona in 2022. You might remember her as the former TV anchor who used so much soft lighting in her Zoom interviews that she looked like AI. Lake immediately ran away from the Arizona ruling, issuing a statement that said, I oppose today's ruling, but there's one inconvenient wrinkle. She's on the record repeatedly supporting it.
We have a great law on the books right now. If that happens, we will be a state where we will not be taking the lives of our unborn anymore.
I'm incredibly thrilled that we are going to have a great law that's already on the books. I believe it's ARS 133603. So it will prohibit abortion in Arizona except to save the life of a mother. And I think we're going to be paving the way and setting course for other states to follow.
She cited the exact law by name in question, and now she's trying to pretend she opposed it. No, I didn't mean that ARS 133603. I meant the other ARS 133603, the one that makes it illegal to do a Zoom interview without 12 different ring lights pointed directly at your face. Trump can't escape accountability. He promised to overturn Roe. He overturned Roe. And then he bragged about overturning Roe. It led to disastrous and deeply unpopular abortion bans across the country. And now Trump's allies are planning another abortion crackdown if he wins a second term. It doesn't matter. Trump says he'll leave it up to the states. There's no reason to believe him. He'll say whatever he thinks will help him win the election and stay out of jail. But I don't know why he's so worried. Think of it this way, Donald. Spending a few years in jail is
not the worst thing in the world.
This has been A Closer Look. The news, right? Can make you crazy. But what if there was something you could watch that only made me crazy? Well, there is. It's called Corrections, and it's every week where I respond to YouTube commenters and what they've said I got wrong about each week's show. Check it out wherever you get your YouTube videos. So YouTube, where you are right now. I can be here all day.